The year is 1176 BC, 1 year after the cataclysm. The world we knew is gone. In part 1 of our series, we watched it burn. The great empires, Egypt, the Hittites, Mycenaean Greece, the titans of the Bronze Age, have been brought to their knees. Their palaces are tombs. Their trade routes are ghost roads, their grand armies scattered to the winds by the mysterious sea peoples. This was the single greatest collapse in human history, a worldwide apocalypse that plunged humanity into a dark age that would last for centuries. It was an ending. But what if I told you it was also a beginning? What if this devastating, world-ending apocalypse was not just an act of destruction, but an act of creation? This is the story of how the death of the old world gave birth to our own. This is the story of what rose from the ashes. Act 1, the Iron Revolution. Before the collapse, civilization ran on one critical metal, bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. It was the engine of war, the tool of kings. But it had a fatal flaw. The ingredients were rare and found hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles apart. The entire globalized system depended on complex international trade. When the Sea Peoples shattered that system, the supply of copper and tin evaporated overnight. Imagine trying to build a car engine today, but all the world's steel and aluminum had simply disappeared. The mighty kings and their elite chariot armies were suddenly powerless. Their monopoly on high-tech weaponry was broken. Out of sheer desperation, blacksmiths in small, isolated villages turned to a metal they had always known about, but mostly ignored. It was everywhere, hidden in the dirt and rocks beneath their very feet. It was a messy, difficult, and stubborn material. Its name was iron. Forging iron wasn't easy. It required much higher temperatures than bronze and incredible labor to hammer out the impurities. But it had one revolutionary advantage. It was democratic. You didn't need a king's treasury or international trade routes. All you needed was a local bog, a forest for charcoal, and the skill to work it. Power was shifting from the palace to the village. This changed warfare forever. The age of the untouchable, aristocratic chariot warrior was over. A village blacksmith could now equip an entire troop of foot soldiers with weapons that were cheaper, stronger, and more durable than the finest bronze. Power was no longer in the hands of the few, but in the hands of the many. The common man could now fight back. The same revolution happened in the fields. An iron plow could break ground that was impossible to farm before, opening up new territories for settlement and creating food surpluses. This wasn't just a new material, it was a new operating system for humanity. The Iron Age had begun, not by choice, but by necessity. And it was forged in the fires of the apocalypse. Act 2. The Rise of the Underdogs. With the colossal empires of the Hittites and Mycenaeans turned to dust, a power vacuum echoed across the sea. The lions were gone, and the smaller, nimbler creatures came out to play. On the coast of modern-day Lebanon, a people of daring sailors and merchants saw the opportunity of a lifetime. The Greeks called them the Phoenicians. While the rest of the world was shrouded in darkness, the Phoenicians became the new masters of the sea. They rebuilt the shattered trade networks, their ships fearlessly pushing out into the Atlantic, further than anyone had gone before. They were the connectors, the middlemen, the lifeblood of this new, decentralized world. But their greatest export wasn't timber or their famous purple dye. It was an idea, an invention that would change the human mind itself. Before the collapse, writing was a tool of the elite. Egyptian hieroglyphs and Mesopotamian cuneiform used hundreds, even thousands of complex symbols. It took a lifetime to master. Writing was a secret code used by priests and palace scribes to maintain power. The Phoenicians, pragmatic merchants, had no time for that. They needed a system that was fast, efficient, and easy to learn. So they created a masterpiece of simplicity. Instead of a symbol for every word, they had a symbol for every sound. A phonetic alphabet. Just 22 simple characters. This was the most disruptive technology of the ancient world. For the first time, writing was accessible to anyone. A merchant, a soldier, a potter. You could learn to read and write in a matter of weeks, not decades. Knowledge could now be recorded, shared, and built upon by exponentially more people. It broke the monopoly on information held by the palaces and temples. This Phoenician script became the mother of the Greek, Latin, and eventually nearly every modern alphabet used today. The words you are reading on this screen right now are the direct descendants of that desperate, brilliant innovation. The underdogs had given humanity its voice. Act 3. The birth of the West. For 400 years after the collapse, Greece fell into a profound dark age. The grand Mycenaean palaces were gone, writing was forgotten, the population plummeted. But in the darkness, the memory of the heroic age lingered. The trauma of the collapse was passed down through generations, not as history, but as myth. These were the tales of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, stories of great kings, godlike heroes, and a catastrophic war that brought down a civilization. It was the Bronze Age apocalypse, transformed into the founding epic of Western literature. It was their way of processing the end of the world. When the Greeks finally began to rebuild, they didn't rebuild the old way. They couldn't. The giant, centralized palaces were gone. There was no single god-king to rule them. So they built something new, something decentralized. Built on the scale of the common man, the polis, or city-state. And in the center of the polis was the agora, an open marketplace of goods and, for the first time, ideas. Because they had iron, and because they had the alphabet. The citizens of these new city-states were more empowered than ever before. They began to ask questions. How should we govern ourselves? What is justice? What is the nature of a good life? From these public debates in the agora, the most radical idea in history was born: Demoskratia, rule by the people, democracy. It was an idea that would have been impossible in the rigid top-down world of the Bronze Age empires. It required the total destruction of that old world to even be conceived. From the ashes of the Bronze Age, a new world was forged. The Iron Age gave us technology for the masses. The Phoenician alphabet gave us literacy for the masses. The Greek polis gave us politics for the masses. Think about it. Without this one world-shattering collapse, the entire trajectory of human history would be different. We might still be living in a world of god-kings, of secret knowledge, where power is held only by a tiny, bronze-clad elite. The apocalypse of 1177 BC was not the end of the story. It was the violent, fiery, and necessary beginning of ours. The story of civilization is a story of collapse and rebirth. What will be born from the crises of our own time? Thanks for watching. If you want to see how it all fell apart, make sure to watch part 1 of our series right here.